Ika sorena maika sereninaka. Welcome, Maraka Seretiki Sereninaka. Welcome to this wonderful space, Soretake Sereninaka. Today I'll be sharing a message that has been coming through so strongly for me too, as in the collective, Soretake Sereninaka, that I hope it serves you well, Soretake Sereninaka. And it's about change, Soretake Sereninaka. It's about shift, Sorekanembake Sereninaka. And it's about the chaos, Soreka Sereninaka Siteka. And you might actually have seen what I posted earlier about the quote that came through about remember that in the midst of the chaos, you are remembering. Because at times we might forget. At times you might forget, and that's okay, you know? We are having a human experience, and the emotions can feel like there's so much at times, and it's almost like, how can I actually pass through this? What a wonderful inquiry to really do, honestly, and to have within yourself, like, that question, you know, how can you pass through this? And what is this chaos? And what is behind the chaos? And can I stay in this chaos? And can I actually come out of that triumphant, like a victorious being that you already are? And for sure, you know, for sure, I know that absolutely you can. So let's go into really understanding this chaos, yeah? And it does look and seem and actually might feel like a chaos, but in reality, so many things are putting themselves back into balance, yeah? And because it feels uncomfortable, and because there's so many things coming up to the surface, and like, good morning, Amildi, and because there's just like different sensations and more heightened sensations, it's seen as almost like chaotic. Because then you were so in this plateau, in a way you were so in this plateau of everything was very comfortable. I don't want to say everything, but most things were very comfortable, okay? Many things were very comfortable, and then you got used to the comfortability, and then all of a sudden the system is ready. You are ready to integrate many other things. You are ready, as in like the channels within yourself open up more for you to have a deeper remembrance of yourself. What does that even mean? What that means actually is that your gifts are coming through, your channeling abilities are coming through, the connectors with the ancestral lineage and the elders, the wisdom keepers, and as well as the elements, you know, the wisdom and the elements carry outside of us, which is also inside of us. Nature, literally understanding consciously the language of nature, because we already do. It's just at times we have forgotten, and that's okay. So this is what it really means. So like the channels within you are vibrating. The channels within you are saying, yes, yes, I got this. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I can go back into that natural state of mind, whatever that means for you. And so this is what's happening behind the scenes. Now in the front part, right? I think in your personal experience, in your reality, it's almost like there is so much coming through. How can I stay with this? How can I breathe through all these things? And it might bring a lot of different sensations. Your heart might be racing and things, because now you're seeing that as something completely destructive. And in reality, it's not very destructive. It's actually not really destructive at all. It seems like it's destructing, but what is happening is being face to face to a part of you, to a layer, to a cloud that has been covering your superhuman vision, we like to call it. And so it's coming face to face, and they're looking at each other. And one is scared, you know? Let's say the identity, that the layer that was covering your truth in a way, is looking at the layer that is coming through. And then it goes like, I feel scared. I feel scared because then you are coming through, and then you're gonna tell me that I'm not part of this anymore. That I'm not the protagonist of the show. So therefore, everything wants to be alive. You know, it feels scared. And this part right here, the identity part of like the layers, you know, beginning to grab a grasp, to have a really strong grasp in your in your, of course, identity, in your energetic field, and they don't want to let go. So there's two different identities, yeah? So there is the one right here of like the one that is being integrated. It's not that it's just being like taken off. Yeah, it's being integrating, it's being loved, it's being understood, but it doesn't really know that at that moment. Yeah. And there's the other one that is coming through, there's actually facilitating that change. It's facilitating that change because it's that wisdom within you that sees it as an important part of itself in order to come up, in order to come back up to the surface, in order to come back online. Yeah. So this is what's happening. So now this part of yourself that feels conflicted, the part of yourself that let's call it like there is no longer vibrating at the levels that you are reaching in the consciousness that you're reaching. So more of like lower vibrations, but at the same time, it's a part of you that has been carrying you also for so long. So it's a part of you that already knows you, you know, that knows your story, a part of you that has been with you for so long. So as you see this part, this wise part of you coming up, and they're both looking at each other, you know, and this one, the wise part, is really excited because it's looking at, in a way, the past self, like in awe, as in like, wow, you were able to do all of this. You were able to open up the space for me to come up to the surface, look at you, and be integrated. But at the sight of this divine force, you know, the old version of yourself, let's call it the old version of yourself, the one that has the layers, you know, the clouds covering up your superhuman vision and stuff, sees it, and it gets scared because it's like, okay, shoot, now I'm not running the show, now I'm gonna be kicked off, now I'm not important. So as this fears begins to kick in, there are two entities, yeah? So this entity right here, that's what we're calling the old self, begins to get a grasp on your system because it feels fearful. It feels like you don't care about it anymore and you're gonna throw it away like trash. And this also can come through if you have felt abandonment issues as a kid or as a teenager, as a young adult throughout your life, yeah? And so that can come through really strongly, like the way of not really knowing how to say farewell or goodbye or see you later, yeah? And so then it grabs into your system. This is where the intensity comes in, where you feel that there's so much chaos and you don't even know how to be in it and you don't even know how to breathe, and it's like, goodness, who can help me through all of this, yeah? Because it's not about this part. This part is the wise part. This part knows. It's like, without this part, the old self, like, you wouldn't be where you are right now. Without the old self, this wise part of you wouldn't have risen up to be integrated, to be more, in a way, yes, running the show, like back online, yeah? And so what happens here in the chaotic part, where it seems like chaos, yeah? It's not that part of like chaos that it brings destruction. It can bring destruction if you allow that part to have a grasp on you and not be integrated with the wise version of yourself. And how can that actually happen? Yeah. When it happens is that it doesn't want to let go of who you are, yeah, of who you were, who you have been. So then there's that part where it begins to activate the mind. It says like, no, that is dangerous. We cannot go that way. We gotta stay in our safe spot. Let's stay in our safe spot. And so even though like there's those things activated in the mind that says that, there's that part of you and like in your diaphragm, in your solar plexus, in your heart that knows that it must go that way, that it must go that direction. There's no other way. But if you know that, and then yet you continue to believe that story of the old version of yourself just grasping onto your own energy, so that's creating more tension, and it's beginning to put a wall in between the older self and the wise self. And so when that happens, you know, you are in a way, like in Spanish it's called Entre la Espada y la Pared, you know, so like there's the wall behind you and there's like a spear, I think that's what's called. Oops. That is like pointing towards you, and so like you don't even know, don't have a way to get out, you know, because there's a wall and there's something that can really pierce through your skin and maybe to your chest, and so then you're just like, I don't even know how to move from here. So that's what begins to happen, you know. So as that happens and you feel in a way claustrophobic and not being able to move and not being able to breathe, this is where a lot of anxiety can come through. This is a lot where depression can come through, because then you just feel completely lost in the way of like, how can I actually get out of this space? How can I get out of this situation? If I move back, there's the wall. If I move forward, then there's something that will pierce through me, right? And not necessarily because it's something that's an illusion that your mind is creating, an illusion that is part of yourself, the older self that is holding onto you so tightly. It's creating because it's fearful of you forgetting that part of the self, which this is actually a really fascinating part of the awakening process, for sure. When you feel that you're gonna lose yourself and you're not gonna forget your journey, and then who is this person going to be, and what will happen with this version, and for sure I've gone through that myself. But it's really fascinating to observe your mind and observe what the mind is telling you, and then how your body reacts, how the emotions come through. And so remember that, again, going back into the quote that we just posted, remember that in the midst of chaos, you are remembering, because the chaos is something that is in a way created or being a part of the illusion of that part of yourself that says, please don't let me go, please don't let me go. Like, I've been here for so long with you, and we've gone through this amazing journey together, and now you're just gonna let me go. But again, it's not that you're going to let it go, yeah? Because again, without that version of yourself, the wisest part of you at this moment in time wouldn't have been able to rise up, because that version of yourself is the one that opened up the space for that part of you to come through, for many parts of you to come through. And again, going back into that wise version of yourself, this is the one that has, that is like deeply connected with its channeling abilities, with its intuition, with its gifts, with like really being in tune with the elements and nature and any other beings, really, because that's a part of us, yeah? And so what needs to happen here in order for this one right here, the older version, not to have such a big grasp, because imagine if like you really want to let go of a space, yeah, and there's somebody that is like either like hugging you or holding you by the wrist or something, and says like, no, you're not gonna let go of this place, I'm not gonna let you leave. Then it's just like, what is gonna happen? You're gonna tighten it up, you're gonna freak out, right? So it's just something very similar, where you gotta tell this version of yourself, this part of yourself, it's like, I'm not gonna forget you. I'm not gonna forget you. You will still be in me, because every single part of you, every version of yourself is still alive within you. And you're still taking care of it. At times it will pop up, like through, your inner child would come through as like the younger version of yourself, for you to take care of it, for you to nurture it. And at times, the wise version of yourself will come through to give you different messages and guidance. This is something that Hannah described really, really powerfully in the podcast that we recorded. You can watch it when you access the link in my bio. That is called Sorcery with Hannah-Lena Christensen, and she really talks about that at times, from the point of the astrology, that there's like the different parts of the moon cycle, where one really means like the older version of yourself, your present, and your higher self, yeah? So they come through whenever they need to, whenever you need to, whenever the space is open. So here, this older version of yourself is opening up that space for that one, for your highest self, if you will, for the highest version of yourself to come through. So in that space, it's very important to acknowledge that version of yourself. So now, again, going back into remembering when there is chaos, in the midst of the chaos, you are remembering. Because in the midst of what this one really feels like it's chaotic and there's no way out and it feels crazy, or there's like so much anxiety and depression coming through, this one right here is witnessing and is holding space for the older version of yourself to realize that it's not going to be forgotten, that it's not crazy, and it's just going to be integrated with this one. So they will merge and they will rise as a stronger version of yourself, because you are not just one version of yourself. It's not like your higher self comes through and everything else that was like prior to the higher self gets deleted. What happens is like that comes through and everything else in you integrates it, and it's kind of like a melange. And and then you come through, you're going through a rebirth process, and then a newer version of yourself comes through. Yeah, so it's kind of like different kinds of ingredients. That version of yourself that feels that there's so much chaos and it doesn't even know how to deal with things, and it doesn't even know how to breathe or trust at the moment, is an important ingredient for the newer version of yourself to fully come through and then to integrate it. So when you're going through this processes of just like the chaotic parts, that's just like, I don't know, you know, that we all have those moments where it's just like, oh shit, I don't even know what to do right now. So then, you know, like, remember, have your sticky note around. Like I tell my clients all the time, have your sticky note around. Like, okay, in the midst of the chaos, you are remembering. So now the chaos is part of the mind that gets activated by that one just holding on tight because it's so scared to leave, you know? Like, if you have ever seen, I saw this, it really touched my heart one time, and I almost took this puppy home with me. When I was living in Las Vegas, I had a doggie that she ran off, or we don't even know what happened, yeah? But one of our doggies was missing, and we were putting flyers everywhere, and then we found her at the pound. So we went to pick her up, and to me, like, I cannot walk through, I mean, I know I could, but it's very difficult for me to walk through like the pound and look at all those sad doggies because I will take them all home. So as I was waiting for my ex to go see if it was actually her, you know, there was this family that came in with another dog, and they were leaving the dog in the pound. And I was like witnessing all of that, and I was like, I can see this right now because the dog didn't want to let go of the family, of their loved ones, you know? So it was kind of like freaking out and having this eyes like and crying like, please don't leave me, please don't leave me, you know? So it's like, it's something very similar to this part of yourself. It's like, please don't leave me. I don't want to be forgotten. Don't throw me away to the trash. And so then, like, of course it's gonna freak out, you know? If it feels like you're just gonna do this to that part of yourself, of course it's gonna freak out. Of course it's gonna think that like it's not good enough, that for some reason it fucked up, that it wasn't like, yeah, not good enough, not worthy enough, you know? So all these things will get activated, and also about the part of like feeling crazy, yeah? So in this moment, when that gets activated in the mind, and correlating that to that part of yourself, then you can hold yourself and say, I'm not forgetting about you. You have like walked to me for so long right now, and then you have opened up the space for this part of myself to come through. And it's like, it's as easy and as simple as truly saying that, you guys, because every single part of your being is constantly listening to you. You are constantly listening, and you can actually, and I love doing this and telling my clients too, that you can really in a way kind of separate them, you know? It's like, I'm here, like talking like it's your best friend, talking like it's your inner child. I'm here, you know, and I love you, and I give thanks for you. And you can even go like deeper into that, you know, especially if it's like super activated, you can go so much deeper into that in the form of like, well, remember everything that we have gone through, you know, and everything that you have helped me through, because sometimes you might not even know exactly which part of yourself is being integrated and which part of yourself is freaking out. But what you do know is a part of yourself that has been with you for a really long time, especially if it's really deep, this process of this part of like the chaos, you know, when it feels like really chaotic. So it's a part of you that has been with you for so long. So then when you begin to say like, well, remember everything that we've gone through. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, because that's true. If that part of yourself wouldn't have been with you, you know, you would have been different, you know, you wouldn't be exactly the being that you are at this moment in time, or at that moment in time, whenever that happens. So cooling it down, yeah, cooling it down, letting it know that it's loved, letting it know that it's appreciated. So then it will relax the grip on your system, and then it will have the courage to look up and look at the highest version of yourself that is coming through. The version of yourself that is because of the older version that it was able to come through, because the older version already knew, even though it was scared and it did not want to let go, okay, it did not want to let go of control. It knew that it was opening up the space for something bigger than itself. Yeah, this is how intelligent your system is, which is amazing. So that at this moment, you know, when it has the courage to look at it, so that it can see divine love from the other version of yourself. It can see that it's not going to be pushed away, that it's not going to be thrown away to the trash. It will see that it will be hugged, you know, that it will be welcome. Just kind of like if you had one of those moments that somebody, you know, like left for so long, that really meant something so deeply to you and you loved them so much, and then they come back home or they come back wherever you live and you see them after so many years and you just maybe run to them or you hug them and squeeze them. It will be a very similar sensation that is like, I missed you, because they know each other. They both know each other. It's your system. You know, your system knows each other. It's just, again, you know, those tricks of the mind, or the tricks of like the conditions of holding so tight onto something and not let it go, the conditions of control, the conditions of like, I don't know if I can do this, you know? So this is what happens. They look at each other, and then there's a channel that goes from each other, and they begin to feel again the remembrance. You are me, I am you, holy shit, welcome. And they just begin to merge like magnets, you know, magnets go like, right? So they begin to merge. And in this process, you know, what I really love about this process, that at times it's not just like, it might feel like that with you, but there's so much that is going on here, because then this version of yourself begins to like have a conversation with the other one, and it's really cooling it down even more from that grip, you know, from feeling that it's going to be forgotten. It even begins to show it, holy smokes, they begin to show it like the amazing things that they will be together, you know, because again, it's like different ingredients for the newer version of yourself to come through. So it's not like these two versions will be it, you know, it will be again a melange, a dance. Then, and through that inner alchemy is the new you that will rise up, yeah? But and in this part where they are merging, there's so much communication happening. There's so much communication and ease that is happening from the wisest version of yourself at that moment to the one that feels a little like insecure and doesn't want to be seen and things like that. And then also, you know, then this one begins to see that part and it begins to go into like, wow, I'm actually you. Can I believe this? You know, have you ever had those kind of moments where it's just like, I am so good at what I do, or it's like, wow, I did that really good, you know, especially when you surprise yourself. So now the two of them are looking at powerful mirrors, and they begin to dissolve any tension that was in the way of like, I wasn't good enough, or that mirror is too much for me, or that's crazy, I can't be her, or it's like, how did I come from that, you know? So like there is like those kind of like things that are around this like merging part of yourself that is part of the process, you know, because again, you are alchemizing. This is all happening within yourself, the inner alchemy. And again, the space in between beings, right? The two identities. This is where the inner alchemy happens. So in this space, you know, there around the space, there's so many, in a way, clouds. There's so many like little triggers that they might have felt before, you know, especially if you have been remembering your gifts. And at the beginning, maybe you began to channel, you're like, what the fuck was that? You know, that was really weird. Or then other things like somebody comes to you and you're witnessing like a person that you feel that is very powerful, and you begin to think like, I can't be like her or like him, how could I, you know? So like all those little like stories are around that, yeah, and they are being witnessed at themselves as well, because it's like a movie that gets played as this alchemy and the merge of these two versions of yourself happens, and they're also witnessing and watching that, and they're having that conversation of like, in a way, you know, it's like, how funny is it we thought about that, you know, because your system is also not only is intelligent, but it's also funny as fuck, you guys. You know, this is why like during the awakening process it says like, you know, have fun, it doesn't have to be all like tense and tight, you know. So your system also knows your own like how is this word comedic you are, you know, like how much comedy there is within yourself, yeah? So then it really likes to access that part too. It's like, oh my gosh, can you believe that we thought even that? How funny is that? Remember that part of ourselves that was like, therefore I can't do that. And now look at us, we're merging, you know? So it's like so much beauty that happens there as they continue to witness each other and continue to look at each other, knowing that they are it, you know, they are it. This is in a way very similar And you can even say it's similar or the same as the merging of the divine masculine and feminine energies, you know. So then they're coming through, and the more that they come together, you know, then that dance begins one more time. So there's always a dance, you guys. There's always a dance, because that is where the alchemy actually, the last stages of the alchemy begin to come through. And when the dance stops in a way, that's when the alchemy is done. And then so like you go from like this chaotic part, like, oh shit, I don't even know what to do, there's so much happening, there's so many change happening in my life, how can I go through all of this, you know, into like, hey, you're okay, you know, like I see you, I love you, you're not gonna be forgotten. And then it begins to look at the other version of herself, it begins to merge. As the closer they get, there is a dance that happens energetically up, upwards. So this is your merge, this is your rebirth, which rebirthing, you know, happens a lot of times, you guys. It's not just one time thing. Yeah, little rebirth throughout. So they're coming together, and there's this beautiful dance that is happening, which is really your process of rebirth. You know, like when we are in the womb, right? It takes months for us to develop. It's very similar to that. It's not like it's gonna take months anyway, you know, but it's just something that you can have an idea what happens, yeah? And so when it happens, there's this explosion, and that's when you feel like, oh, I'm back. Wow, that was wild. Wow, that was intense. Oh wow, Susan. Yeah. So this is really what happens, yeah. And it's not that like, it's not that you're punishing yourself. It's not that life is punishing you. It's just like we must learn to see things from a different perspective, because we have been conditioned, we have been taught, we have been like told like this is the way of life, you know. When things are going wrong, like God does not have you. I don't know if you heard that, but like I heard that in my growing up, because I grew up in a Catholic family. And even though I never believed that I had to go to church to actually pray, you know, like I can pray anywhere, but it was like, oh yeah, like, oh God, please forgive him, or please forgive her, like, oh, he's going to hell, or she's going to hell, you know, like all these kinds of things, because somebody did not approve or a way of being of somebody else. And who are we to approve of somebody's way of living? You know, that's their story. We just gotta accept that they are divine beings and they're in the same journey. Yeah. So like all these things come through, you know, and it's just this way of like shifting your vision, you know, and really going out of the way of the victim mentality. That because you're feeling chaos, it's not that your system is punishing you. It's a way that you choose to see that based on your own experience and based on your own codes and in your own belief systems and etc. Yeah. And so when you realize that, you know, when you come into terms of like, oh, yeah, that's how my parents saw it, or that's how I saw it for like decades in my household, then it can be a little bit more gentle, the transition into shifting the vision, yeah. Because remember that as you are growing up and you are really grabbing things from your family lineage or things that were already in your system because of the story of your family, you are clouding your superhuman vision, yeah? Because of course at that moment, as you know, as babies or as toddlers, like we don't know any better. We look at like mom and dad figure, and it's like, okay, well, they know, you know, they're older people, I think like they're tall people, right? So you're looking at them like, holy shit, you're tall. And so then it goes into like, okay, well, they should know, you know, they must know their mom, their dad, I don't know, you know. And so, but what happens is like you're grabbing those things, and in a way it's clouding your superhuman vision, your intuition, your intuitive state. And so when you're in this journey, what you're doing is you're giving yourself the opportunity to remember that superhuman vision, to go back, you know, so like peeling those layers and integrating them so then you can feel yourself. So then your channeling abilities can actually come through. So your intuition can be so on point. So then you can actually trust everything that happens in your system. And you're not saying like, oh shit, why is this happening again? You know, it's like, oh, this cycle again, and I didn't really learn from it. All right. Okay, so then you can be more gentle with yourself. Does this make sense? I really hope it does, because Otherwise, then you're going in tension, in tension. So imagine, this is one thing that is coming through, that older part of yourself, right, that is already freaking out, that is already thinking, that is in between, like I was saying, the la espada y la pared. I have to look up really how to say espada in English. But like in between places that you can't really move and you feel like constrained, right? So this part of yourself that really feels chaotic, really feels like there's no way out. And then you feed that. If you feed that, it's gonna create more and more and more that chaos, or that illusion of the chaos in your system. And it's already enough, like if you have felt it like I have felt it, when like I thought there was so much chaos happening in my life and in my journey, it's like, dang, that's a lot of chaos. Like, I don't need to add more into that. Yeah, but if you feed that, you like feed it and you're like, oh yeah, it sucks right now, it's too much, I don't know, so if you continuously feed that, then of course it's gonna feel like it's bigger and bigger, the illusion will like get stronger. But then if you acknowledge it, that's part of yourself that in a way is scared, and that's okay, It feels like you're just gonna throw it to the trash, Who will like to be thrown in the trash? Let's be honest, Would you like to be forgotten by somebody that was deeply connected with you? I mean, I hope not, I definitely don't. Even if we don't really talk that much anymore, right? So then, and that part, that's why it's really important to have that conversation and to say, hey, you're not gonna be forgotten. Because again, remind that part of you that every single version of yourself is still alive within you in your current version, because it's an ingredient of another rebirth. Yeah. And how many rebirths have you had throughout your experience? We have so many, we can probably even count them, but so like imagine like the very first time, okay, there was this version and that version, they came together, rebirth happened, and this is really the mix of this too. There's another one that happened, and this too, and the rebirth is a mix of all the ones on the bottom. So it's like they're inside of you. You can't forget them. You can choose to if you like to, but then that's also putting another separation in your system and another tension that is not necessary, you guys. There's already so much tension in the world, goodness, like we don't need to put more tension in our systems. You don't need to put more tension in your system. So this is the part, where you're just like, okay, thank you. Thank you, because this chaos is actually helping me through another rebirth process. And if I relax, if I chill just for a little bit and trust and talk to it, it will have the ability to look face to face into the new version of myself, and my alchemy dance will happen. Bam. That's it. And I'm so glad this came through, honestly, because yes, with some of my clients, like there's a lot of shifts happening in their life, and I feel this is honestly happening like all throughout, in our society, really. And I'm definitely going through massive shifts in my life anyway too, so I can definitely resonate with that. But the thing is, that remembrance, in the midst of the chaos, you are remembering. So remember that sticky note, so you can see it. The more you're able to see something, the more then you can actually remember. Yeah, good. So I hope this served you well, because it definitely served me well. I took my puppy for a walk in the trail this morning, and I was just hearing all these things from nature and the trees, Also, here's another invitation, because there is the moment where the trees feel more alive. That doesn't mean that they were not alive, but because especially in the northern hemisphere, we're in spring, everything is coming back to life in a way. Yeah, there is that essence of the trees. They are like very excited, and then in that essence of excitement, we can actually tune in deeper in through their communication skills, which of course is already within you, right? It's a remembrance. And so really pay attention to the trees. It's so important, you guys. And especially because of all the shift that is happening in the planet and happening with our brothers and sisters, the more that we can actually remember the subtle communications of life, the more that we can hold space for them. Yeah, the more then like our energies can travel through the trees. How amazing is this? Our energies can travel through the trees, through really the communication grid that has us all at the bottom and also on the surface, for them to feel held. And like, it doesn't even matter for us. It's not our concern in a way how they feel it, that we know they feel it, because the energy circulates and the energy passes through. So it's so powerful. What you're doing is so powerful. So give yourself some freaking credit. You know, really. Even if you have been feeling the chaotic part of yourself and then feeling that you don't really trust and you're still throwing yourself, you know, and like jumping into like the abyss or something, you know, like give yourself some credit, or like, no, some big credit, yeah, that you're doing something so amazing, not just for you, but for all of us. And what a gift it is, honestly, for you to have a deeper experience of yourself, especially when you remember your story. You know, when you remember your story, when I remember my story and how like this my family is, I'm like, wow, we broke through all of that. And now when I'm with my family, I actually enjoy being with them, and I enjoy seeing the human side of them. And honestly, when they get in little, I don't want to call it fights, but then, you know, they begin to do this with one another. And I just find it so fascinating, because that's not what I normally around. And I honor their journey. You know, that's their journey. But their journey was also for me to be able to see that that was not my journey, you know? So like there's so much goodness in your story. And your story is so powerful, even the most challenging parts of your story. So again, shift that vision, yeah? Shift the vision that like maybe you had a really like shitty childhood, or maybe it was like a very intense teenage years or young adult, whatever. But had that not happened, would you be in the space that you're in right now? Would you have the awareness that you have? Would you be so powerful right now if that had not happened? I can tell you based on my story, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to have so much compassion for people, because I've gone through so much shit. And now when I look at it like a freaking blessing. Like, wow, thank you for going through all of that. Thank you for surviving, first and foremost. Thank you for surviving, because then it's shown me so much. Yeah? So your story has been showing you something so powerfully. And are you paying attention to your story? Are you paying attention to everything that happens in the way, with the eyes of love? Yeah, with the eyes of love. Not with the eyes of like, oh, fuck, that was difficult. And why did I go through that? And all these things, you know? Because in a way, you're just whooping yourself with that, with those words. But when you look at yourself, it's like, wow, we went through all of that and we came out of that victorious. And we are here. And now look what we're doing, you know? Maybe you are in that healing journey of guiding others too. Or maybe you are in your healing journey figuring out what you're gonna do. But regardless of that, you know, you are here in this present moment because your story, and your story carries so much medicine. Let me repeat this again. Your story carries so much medicine for yourself and for others. And it doesn't even matter if it's in the way of like people actually paying for your services, or you getting to know people and you have this deep connection. Is like, whoa, I just had a massive shift by talking to you. It doesn't really matter how it comes through, but what it matters is that that is your medicine. When you honor your journey, when you honor your journey and love every single part of it, not just the parts that were like really awesome, you know, but the most challenging parts. You know, the parts that you thought you were not going to get out of that. When you honor those parts, then your medicine ignites within. And the inner alchemy goes like through the roof. And then you grow so like fast. So this is the moment, like any moment in the present moment is the moment to honor you. To honor your journey, to sit down in a way, like literally sit down and imagine that you're just watching the movie of your life and your story and being like, holy shit, I went through all of that and I look where I am. Look at all my amazing survival skills in a way, you know, look at my amazing survival skills, and I now, like, I'm this person. And like all the power that I have, all the strength that I have, like the confidence in my being, wow, you know, wow. So take the moment to like take a step back and imagine you're watching this movie, you know, and if you get, you know, sad about some parts, that's okay. Sometimes, you know, tears don't really come out of sadness, but of joy that is like, yeah, I went through that and it was so difficult and it was so challenging, but at the same time, I'm so glad that I did, you know? So like, honor that journey, honor your journey, because it's so powerful. And again, it carries such a deep medicine, not only for you, but for this planet. When we honor that awakening process and going from being dormant, you know, like kind of like a zombie, and being into the matrix like so deeply, to like coming out of that and being in the process of truly coming out and then coming back into yourself and then continue to be in that journey. Wow, the strength that you carry, you know, that your ancestors have been holding space for you, for that to come through, is so powerful. So take a moment, and I'm taking a moment right now to honor your journey, to honor that story that nobody else has, only you. And that is the reason why your medicine based on your story is so powerful, because nobody else has it. Maybe somebody else can have very, like, a little bit of similarities in there, but not everything. So this is another one of the other reasons why each of us are so powerful. Each of us are so different, because we carry different attributes in our beings, you know? And so take that moment to honor yourself and to love everything about you, starting with things that you think that you don't love about yourself. Because that's, again, another condition for another part of yourself. And we'll talk about it maybe next week or so. All right, this was powerful. Thank you, you guys. Thank you for being here and spending what was it, like more than 30 minutes with me. I really honor your time. I mean, share this video with somebody if you feel that it will really help them, you know, and of course it will help spread the word of love, you know, which is us. So I'm really excited. This weekend there's going to be a parade in here, and I'm going to get this amazing tarot like deck that I've been tuning into that and getting more herbs for my apprenticeship. So I'm excited for all of that. Anyways, anything that you need to hear regarding of your awakening process, or you can send people my way, you know, if you know that somebody needs some guidance, and I'll gladly, you know, have a chat. So take care of yourself. Immediately, I love you so much. Take care of yourself. Enjoy today. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your story and your medicine. And I'll see you next time. Ciao, peace.